Order the May 17, 2007 Town of Shelburne Development Review Board meeting. Welcome, everybody. If you think you may testify this evening on any application, please sign in with Mary Ann so that we have an attendance list. It's been a while. I think one meeting in April is all I attended. I think I missed one, so it's been quite a while for me. There's Ian. That's okay. I just called the meeting to order. We're good. We're all good. So the first item on our agenda this evening is this is our annual reorganization meeting. I can't believe a year's gone by since we reorganized last time. And this is something that's usually run by staff, so I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin, and, well, I guess start with nominations for the various offices within the board.
Can I just go one by one? Or?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, would anyone like to make a motion to elect a chair, new or existing?
Make a motion for Mary as chair.
Okay. Would anyone like to second that motion?
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion, comments?
Mary does
Thank you
awesome.
for doing a great job, Mary. It's a no-brainer.
All right. And with that, can I have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I abstain.
Unanimous. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Would anyone like to make a motion to elect vice chair, existing
I'll
or
move
new?
to elect Mark Salmon as vice chair.
Would anyone like to second that
Second.
motion? Okay. Any discussion? All right. Can I have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I'll abstain. I guess, I don't know.
And lastly, would anyone like to make a motion to elect a clerk?
Make motion to elect Joanne.
Do this on there.
And I'll second that.
All right.
Feels like a game of tag.
Any discussion? Nope. Joanna, you okay with that? Okay, and with that, can I have a vote?
Aye.
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 All right. And that concludes the reorganization meeting.
We're
You campaigned hard for
feeling
that.
so
hard for
organized now. All right, this is the time in our agenda where we typically ask for public comment. If anyone has any public comment on any issue that the board has addressed recently or ever, or that's on the agenda today, but not by way of testimony, now is the time to do it. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next matter on our agenda, which is the approval of two sets of minutes. The April 13, 2017 minutes and the April 19, 2017 minutes. I would take a motion to approve the April 13, 2017 minutes unless there's a need for any discussion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Same for April 19, 2017. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes unless anyone would like to have discussion about them or has comments. None?
So moved.
Okay. Second? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Meeting minutes for April 19, 2017 have been approved. The next matter on our agenda is an application. It's number SP 17-03. It's an application by Dorothy Miklas. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. On behalf of the Terraces Area Association for a site plan amendment to add 6 parking spaces. Is there anybody in the audience this evening present to talk about this application? Ms. Miklas, if you'd like to, we have everything you say has to get on the record for our vast and sprawling viewing audience, and you can just stand in front of the room. And if it's possible, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in connection with these proceedings?
Yes.
Can you state your name for the record?
My name is Dorothy Miklas.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the Terraces?
So the Terraces is located here in Shelburne. It's right off of Maplewood Drive. It's a 58 condo units They're owned units, so we're a unique property to Chittenden County, where it's the only retirement community in Chittenden County where you actually can own your unit. Most of the rest of the retirement community, you rent. So this is a kind of a nice opportunity for seniors. It's a 55-plus community. It is independent living, so the folks that live there have the opportunity to age in place with services that we do provide, but we do not provide any type of nursing care there. So if a resident has the need, they would be doing that privately. So they'd be bringing in private care. But we do provide a meal option there. We have an activities and a social director there. We have a van available for residents that are non-drivers that will get them to some of the places. We provide transportation to doctor appointments within Shelburne and Charlotte area. So we really have a nice appeal for people who would like to age in place. And the affordability is so much easier on the individual than getting into like an assisted living community. So.
Tell us a little bit about your application.
Yeah, so what we have, I've been the property manager there for just over 2 years, and as soon as I walked through the door, the previous property manager, told me that parking continues to be the biggest concern within the community, and most of the reason for that is that when the community was built, I think it was maybe a 60-plus community, and we had changed the bylaws to 55 a number of years ago. So we are attracting, to some degree, a younger population of folks coming to the community. But we also have a lot of our seniors that are driving a lot longer than they may have been when the community was established in '83. So we have 58 units, but we really currently only have about 60 spots. And so we're battling, particularly we have 3 drives, and the upper drive is a drive that has a number of different, we have 5 buildings that come out into the upper drive, and if all of those residents needed a parking spot, we would need 33 parking spots there, and right now we're only housing 28. So we're getting to the point where sometimes people might live on the upper drive and they have to park down in the middle drive and walk all the way. And with this population, it's not safe, particularly in the winter. So we're really looking for a quick, easy way to be able to provide some additional spots on the upper drive. And we've hired the Vermont, the Civil Engineer Associates, and they came in and did an extensive study of our stormwater runoff. We've updated our stormwater permit through the state of Vermont. It's been kind of an exhausting process, but we've gone through the loops of that, and are working with Act 250, to get an adjustment to the Act 250 permit as well. Yep, it's been a burden in that regard for this small application, and it's going to cost us over $4,000 just in permitting.
Does staff anything to add to the application other than what's in the report?
No, and I actually talked with Dorothy earlier. I had a comment in the parking requirements about handicap parking, and
Yeah.
there not being any, but there is. It just
Yeah.
wasn't listed on the site plan. There are
We have 9
spaces.
spots.
Okay. So here's what confused me a little bit about the application, about whether we need to decide if this is a continuing care retirement facility, or if this just is a conditional use that we'll grant. Can you flesh that out for me a little bit?
Yes, so the approval for the terraces is MIA. I looked through minutes from the original approval. I tried to find the original files, no such luck. There's quite a lot of paperwork calling it retirement community. They identify themselves as an independent living community. The only thing I could figure out that it might have been approved as, based on the permitted and conditional uses back in the early 80s, was a community care home. It doesn't necessarily fit the bill. So if nothing else, it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. They're not proposing an expansion of that use, so it's kind of a non-issue. But if you wanted to discuss it further, you certainly could. But I don't know if
have any
there's.
need
I don't
to.
want to burden
No,
yeah,
no.
this anymore. I'm sorry you had to get all this approvals.
Yeah,
Oh, my
yeah.
gosh.
No, I'm fine with use, regarding the application as one for conditional use.
Okay.
unless anybody else has an issue with it. No? Yeah, okay, good. And so you were also suggesting, Caitlin, that we get additional information as a condition of approval relating to a stormwater permit.
Yep, so that can just be asking for their project review sheet before they
Okay,
get a building permit,
okay. all
which
right,
I'm sure
that's
you
easy.
already have if you went through all that permitting already.
Yeah, so the stormwater permit's just in the final phase. I think it becomes official on the 22nd of this month. So they've like posted it for public notice. They have a mandatory period of time it has to be out there. So we're just waiting for that period of time, and I think it becomes officially approved on the 22nd of this month.
Okay. And then the only other question had to do with landscaping, I believe. Is there any landscaping plan, or is it even necessary?
So it's not affecting too much. We have 2 trees that we're going to have to take down,
Yeah, I
and
see
we are
them.
replacing 2 trees on the property. We've already planted one of them, and we're going to be planting a second. So it was really just intended that since we're taking 2 trees down, that we would put 2 trees back into the community.
Are those the trees that are highlighted on?
They are, but one of the locations that Josh from Civil Engineering selected is really problematic for the way we mow the property. So I worked with him, we just moved it slightly.
But it's going to be in the same general vicinity.
Yeah,
And if I,
upper drive.
Okay.
They'll both be in the upper drive.
got it. Does anyone have any other questions of the applicant? Yeah, Colleen, you have to come up and say
Oh,
your
I'm
name
sorry,
and
ma'am.
get the microphone.
This is Colleen Haig. Our stormwater pond that we have actually services the wild ginger area too. So the pond that's on the Terraces property is really, part of that runoff comes from wild ginger. It came, when I first became town clerk in '83, this was starting to materialize, and let's just say, all of that stuff was a little bit of a gray area.
I'm going to stop you right there,
Okay.
Wait, no, you can keep talking. Just, I have to ask you a favor. Can you raise your right hand?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, do you swear everything you just said is true?
Yes,
And everything you're going to say is true?
yes, I'm
All
sorry.
right, and can you state your name for the record?
Colleen Haig.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say, that the stormwater that we spent money on to approve and get is really helping wild ginger in that area too, so.
Good to know.
It's a long story.
Thank
Well, and I
you.
think that the town owns a permit on the same pond. So I think that Chris Robertson and I have had a conversation, and he keeps a permit on the pond too, because of the runoff from wild ginger, and wild ginger being a town road. So the pond gets a lot of attention.
Anything else from anybody on the board? If not, I'd be happy to take a motion, should somebody wish to make one.
I would make that motion to approve.
Okay, and finalizing the record?
As well as finalizing the record.
Okay, and I don't think there were any conditions that we added, so we'll just,
Just, you want to make the inclusion of the project review sheet a condition?
Language in there about showing an exemption from the requirements of
Yeah.
Chapter 22. I think the project review, I mean, we can amend it to say just provide the project review sheet.
that would be great.
Okay.
Makes it clear.
I'll second the motion then as posed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Alrighty. Next matter on our agenda is application SUB 04. 10R1, it's application by Krebs and Lansing Consulting Engineers on behalf of Jay Desitel for preliminary plan approval for 6-lot residential PUD. It's located at Zero Pond Road in the rural district and in a very small portion of the floodplain and watercourse overlay districts. Yeah. Is there anybody in our audience this evening here to testify about this particular application, in addition to Mr. Desitel?
I'm Scott. Pick up the mic.
Yeah.
I'm Scott Homestead for the applicant's engineer from Krebs and Lansing Consulting Engineers.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in connection with this application?
I do.
So I'm going to ask a favor of you. Hand the mic over to Mr. Desitel, and then we can swear him in and avoid that formality when we're rolling. Mr. Desitel, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in connection with your application this evening?
Yes.
Okay, so you can hand the mic back to Scott, and then why don't you give us the Reader's Digest version, Scott?
Sure.
And I think all of us are pretty familiar with this application. so-
Hopefully, we've been in here a couple times. We came in for the pre-sketch conference, then we had a full sketch plan review
And a site visit.
and a site visit. So hopefully that did help people familiarize with the project. But I will review it a little bit to give a little bit. There's a lot of history with this parcel that I think has sometimes caused a little bit of confusion that I can go over a little bit, and then I can go over the current plan. So currently, the parcel in question is a 133-acre parcel located off of Pond Road and Route 16. Shelburne Pond is to the northwest of here. And back in 2004 or so, this was subdivided into 4 lots with 3 approved building lots and an open space lot. And at that time, there was also remaining lands that could be subdivided in the future. At the time, there was a town line issue that you may be aware of that took years to resolve, heavily impacted the project, and eventually the applicant at that time just said, we're just going to put off that part that is affected by that and move forward with what we have. Since then, no lots were really sold or developed. Around the last year or two, Mr. Desitel's bought the property and came to us with an idea for a sort of different lot layout that he had in mind. And we met with town staff to discuss that and then restarted the subdivision process. So the current layout of lots is for 3 access points. One off of Route 116 is currently in and sort of serves this land, and also an existing house that is adjacent to the property but actually located in St. George. And so that drive would be extended to serve 2 lots, which we have labeled lots 1 and 2. And then there will be a shared driveway off of Pond Road that would come up to serve these lots 4, 5, and 6. And these building envelopes are in the same location as what was previously approved and permitted. So we've reconfigured the lot areas a little bit. We've made them bigger. There was some thought that a couple of these lots might attract someone who was into something like horses or wanted to have, a small scale farming operation. And so the thought was, rather than have smaller lots with community open space, we would have some open space on the lots for that use. And then the last remaining lot would be off of a single driveway, also off of Pond Road, located further to the west. And if you drive down Pond Road, this follows, you can see where this is. There's already a road culvert there, and there's sort of a woods road that, we drove, an excavator up to do the test bits, right as it is, and so the driveway would follow that. Just looking, as you look at the plan, I tried to call it, it's a large scale plan because it's such a big piece of property, so I tried to do a little work beforehand to try to show where some things are. The pink outlines here, I brought my fancy new pointer, are the building envelopes. The green lines are the driveways and access points. And the little blue circles here are stormwater management areas. So this is very undulating topography, kind of goes all over the place. You can't really just have one common stormwater management area where everything kind of flows to one convenient spot. It's just, it's too big and spread out and goes up and down. So we have actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little smaller scale stormwater management practices. And then, yeah, sure.
Tell us more about what the stormwater management is.
Essentially the way we'll treat stormwater on this site and the way we'll get a state permit for this, and we've actually got one for the previous development. So this parcel has a stormwater permit, so we'll be amending that to reflect the current development. And the way we got that was through a combination of what they call credits and practices. And the big one that is suitable for sites like this is what they call the environmentally sensitive rural development credit. It's a mouthful. But what that enables you to do is to sort of say you're meeting some of the stormwater requirements by developing in a certain way. And so what all the buildings out here will be what's called disconnected, which means that water will flow off the roofs and then flow directly over land at a certain slope and a certain distance before it concentrates or meets a receiving water, a wetland or a stream. And the driveways all will flow by grass or stone-lined swales rather than like a pipe and catch basin system. And so we can use that, and then all the little blue areas are what we call dry detention ponds. So they're more of the shallower variety pond that would be dry most of the time and would only fill up when it rained heavily. So that's what we have.
Yeah,
That was
based
the-
on what you're describing, if I understand correctly, is that the runoff created by the impervious surfaces that are introduced into this land is going to be such that it gets reabsorbed into the land around it? Is that the idea?
Well, there's not, this whole site is what we call D soil. And D soils are clays and silt.
Right.
And so there's not a lot of opportunities to sort of truly infiltrate, because it doesn't infiltrate now. You go out here and walk around, I think even when we did the site visit, it was in the winter, so you can see it so much. But if it rains, it's spongy for a
It
while.
stays wet.
For a while, and there are wetlands on the property which reflect that, but most of the building sites and the roads are in upland, higher areas. So the idea is to, yes, infiltrate as much as you can, and then when you can't, to slow runoff to prevent erosion and treat it and replicate the
Okay.
existing.
How do you
condition
slow the
that is out
runoff,
there.
with the gravel and the grass? Is that?
So that's where the ponds come in.
Oh, okay.
So you direct the stormwater runoff to the ponds, it goes in there at a fairly rapid rate, and then you release it at a very slow rate. And in the meantime, there will be storage within those ponds, it can cool up, and then release. We literally have little orifices that are 1 inch in diameter coming out of these ponds. So flow in at whatever rate it goes in and come out very slowly over time.
Thank you.
And again, that replicates the way we did the original system, which we got a state permit for, which was under the current rules, which are about to change, but was under the state, what
Yay.
was currently considered sort of state of the art, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem, it's something I'm sure we would have talked about anyway. So, and then the other thing I was going to point out is where the septic systems are. The little yellow areas here are where the septic systems are for each lot. The lot 1 did not really have super close good soils on it, so it'll actually pump over to
Oh,
here.
wow.
You can't do a direct pipe because there's a wetland through here, so that will just follow along the driveway. And so this speaks to why the lots are sort of spread out. I know in some prior meetings and some Conservation Commission meetings, there's been a lot of talk about why this development why can't it be more clustered? Why do we have to have 6 lots, 2 here, 3 here, 1 here? Why can't we do 6 right here? And this is why. It's because we spent back in 2003, 2004, 2 weeks on this site with an excavator doing test bits, sort of what we call potholing the entire site. And these are literally the only spots we could find in septic capacity. And so there's no single spot where there's the capability to do like a community system. There's only the capability to do the smaller systems. And at that point, we thought and still think that it makes more sense to sort of put the houses where those are, and that's why. So we found some pockets up here. We said, okay, we can do 3 lots up here. We found some pockets over here. We can do 2 lots over here, and then we found an additional one. So that's how that came about.
Can you point out the wetlands for us?
Sure, and I might have a better one. I should have printed this in color. So there is some delineated wetlands that we did back to the original project is this dashed line along this way, and there are little fingers like this. And then there is a wetland from the town map that goes right around like this. This is what you can see when you're out there. This is like a low area with actually like a mapped stream on it with wetlands around it. And
To the marker or something?
No, I have more colors. So and one benefit, another benefit we believe of the current development is previously there was a road that came down off of this existing drive, took what would be a right turn and went up this way to serve these lots, and it came up and there was a cul-de-sac and then these were served up the driveways. And that involved a wetland crossing in this area. And so we felt like getting rid of that was a good thing. We got a permit for it. There was a wetlands conditional use issue for that project, but there's some talk in the notes and staff notes about wetlands, and we're disturbing less than was previously permitted. And so we feel like that's a benefit to this lot layout. So that's pretty much the overview of the project. There were some comments from fire, highway, water quality superintendent. Last week I prepared a summary response to that, sent it to Caitlin. Hopefully you were able to at least glance at that quickly. We didn't see any of them as deal breakers. You know, we all thought all of them were stuff that we were already either planning to provide anyway, or would be able to, meet with those individuals in person, hash those out. I wasn't able to do it before this meeting, but I do have a meeting with the fire chief set up for next Tuesday. So hopefully we can be able to resolve any of his comments at that time. And I anticipate that being a relative formality. So I think unless you wanted to go through, sort of each and every comment, I would go ahead and, open up to more questions, conversation.
Do any members of the board have questions of Scott? I do.
Sure.
Will the applicant promise to allow the vast trail to continue through?
Yes, early on in the process, I received a call from the Snowmobile Club. I'm very concerned about this. This is apparently what they call, he had a buzzword for it, but essentially it's a type of trail it's a connector. So it's not just a trail where you just go out for a spin and turn around and come back. It's basically a link on a trail that goes all the way from Canada to Massachusetts, I think. And so there is the existing vast trail, kind of cuts right through the lots, and we propose to reroute that around this way. There's a note here, you can see it says relocated vast trail. And so that will come around and come out through there. And again, this was an issue that came up when the project was originally developed, and we putting the same relocated vast trail alignment was on that original approval.
And how do you respond to the Conservation Committee's concern that the houses are so spread out and that there's a greater risk of impairment to wildlife and other,
I think
and trees, et cetera?
My general response to that is that, and I talked about this, I spent some time on that in our summary response. But my general response is we're talking essentially when we're between the building envelopes and the conservation areas and the no-cut zones, we're going to preserve over 2/3 of this property in perpetuity. And we're going to really physically disturb like 5% of it. There's very little actual disturbance. And yeah, it's spread out, but this is an enormous piece. And I think the majority of the sort of hesitation has been focused seemingly on lot 3 over in this area. And again, my response to that is this is a 45-acre lot that we're putting one house in. It just doesn't seem like much to me. And that's especially true considering that the driveway that we're putting in is essentially there. There's going to be very little tree cutting to put in this driveway. And really the only tree clearing involved at all will be for one house. And so while I understand the concern, I think it's sort of unfounded in that, I think we probably all either, some of you may even own property like this, or at least have friends who do. The people I know who have 40-acre lots with one house on it have tons of wildlife. There's deer running everywhere. There's rabbits and coyotes and and everything. And just the idea that one house would have an impact on that is just, I personally have, people respectfully disagree, but I personally just have a hard time seeing that as what would you, some of the buzzwords, like an adverse negative effect on, wildlife or forest or anything.
The other thing I wanted to know about, Scott, was how the applicant is going to ensure that the areas that now become not sort of community and common areas, but become private to the owners, remain in an agricultural or pattern or an unused pattern. In other words, what would keep the owner of Lot 3, for example, I know we're going to have the no-cut zones, but from going out and really sort of changing the topography, not the topography, but the lay of the land a little bit?
Wait for mine.
Yeah.
No problem. I probably did it or something. From our point of view, you would. That would be part of the conditions of approval.
Great.
That there would be no, cutting or disturbance outside of, building envelopes
Okay.
and part, certainly there would be deed covenants written up that would be approved by town staff and I assume the town's attorney. And those would, run with the land. There would be additional state permits that would have an effect on that as well. Part of the stormwater permit will be that you have to consider that there would be, X amount of conserved land. And so that would be, go with that. And that would have an annual inspection on it where someone would actually have to go out and file a report every year documenting that. So it wouldn't be just something that would sort of, you'd issue your approval and then no one would ever look at it again and know about it.
Is that it for your,
That's all I
Okay.
have, unless you had
any
more.
members of the board have questions of the applicant? I guess we already went through this, and I'm the one who started asking, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Anybody else?
It's been a couple months, it took a while.
Yeah. Hearing none from the board, I'll turn it over to our audience. I know that some contiguous property owners are here this evening who may want to weigh in a little bit on the application, and I see members of the
Sure.
commission here. Yes, you got to take the mic. Raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in connection with this application? Your name,
My
please?
name is Charlie Pete,
Okay.
and I have some, I'll stand here so everybody can see, that where the road comes in from 116 and comes out through, the road continues on. It's an old farm road, continues on out through comes across the corner of this field. And I have a 33-acre lot there, and was hoping there was some way I could possibly get a right-of-way through there while this whole thing's going on. It's been landlocked, and just something, I didn't know when to bring it up, but that's
I could have a quick comment on that.
Sure.
There's always been, and there continues to be, a future 60-foot wide access and utility easement along that corridor. And so that is something that wouldn't necessarily have to be resolved immediately because that easement would be in effect forever. And so that could be, I think, negotiated at a future time between, the appropriate landowners. Because it won't be, approving this subdivision wouldn't cut off the chance to do that.
How does that easement read, though? Does that easement go all the way back to the public road, or?
Correct. Goes all the way back to Route 116.
And it's a utility corridor?
Or an access and utility.
Access and utility.
So an access and utility, so this access easement, and it's written specifically for the, Eau Claire's, but that is wide enough to do a road. That 60 feet width is enough to do a town road even. And so
Is this all owned by?
this is all owned by Mr. Desautel, correct? Correct.
So would Mr. Desautel be the one to give the right-of-way through there, or would that be?
Right, correct, or some future buyer of this lot, or the homeowners association, or
So when
whoever.
you buy this lot, you buy all this? Is that-
Or goes with the land, correct, but an easement like that would be part of the whole development.
So, sir, that would be something to negotiate, not with us,
Right.
but it's a private matter with the owner of the land, and you can
Gives me a better
call her Mr. Desitel and have a chat with him. I know he's been happy to talk with
understanding.
neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Sure. Good evening. You raise your right hand when you get to a spot. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth in connection with any testimony you should give this evening regarding this application, sir?
I do.
Do you state your name, please?
Attorney Gilmet.
Mr. Gilmet? Go ahead.
So this dates back more than 10 years ago. So is there anyone on this board that was on this board when this first came through? No? So,
Just barely.
yeah, okay, so there's only two things that are the same. The land we're talking about and the farm that's across the road. Actually, when I think it was Mike Anderson, originally proposed a site, he intended to put 3 houses up here as well. I think he wanted to access through this field connecting onto the pond road. This guy here made reference to something about wetlands. Now, I don't know if you were talking about the septic on this parcel or if you were talking about, but originally I think they were granted a right-of-way to get through the wetlands to access these 3 lots right here.
Yep, that's what Scott was
Okay, all
talking
right.
about.
So, and for what reason are you not pursuing that, or?
Mr. Gilmet, can you just hold the mic a little closer to Scott's?
Yep.
The current owner simply prefers this lot development plan, and we worked with him on conjunction with that to come up with a plan that eliminated a wetland crossing, had less of more of a road and more of a shared driveway type of access.
So a question to the board would be, your site visit here that was January 7th, what kind of valuable information did you get at that time of the year?
Oh, you know what? I appreciate that you're asking the board a question, but it's not
Well,
how it
was
works.
Okay, okay, so that's fine. So basically then, so this board received a letter from me a couple weeks ago?
Is it in our packet? I didn't see it.
No, that meeting got continued, and you said you were going to be at that meeting, right?
What meeting?
Last meeting was canceled.
Correct, the
Right.
one, correct, exactly.
Right.
All right.
You said you were going
So,
to be at that meeting.
I was
That-
not able to attend that meeting.
Right, and so that
Okay,
meeting never
so
happened.
they didn't never reviewed any of the.
Not that letter, no.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so the reference to that letter basically was,
Just give us a summary of it, because we don't have it, so. it'd be
okay,
good.
yeah. So, in the letter, basically what I said was I really would advise that you have another site visit at this time of the year, because I don't know how many of you have traveled Shelburne Pond Road, but there is a farm right across from this development that's been there closing in on 70 years. I made it here in November, okay, and I was trying to voice my concerns, and you said that was all premature. But at some point, it's gonna be the right time to talk about this. So across the road, okay, we're almost directly across from here, there is a 1,000,000-gallon manure pit right there. The reason why I would suggest that you come out at this time of the year is because we're coming back to life at this time of the year. This manure pit is being stirred up, the tractors are running, and there's a lot of activity going on. Now, maybe 50 years ago, there were a lot of people that wouldn't mind living close to a farm. Times have changed a lot. I do have a friend right now, actually, that's looking for a home by the name of Wayne Barr. This might be a little bit he would have no problem living across from a farm. But it's probably gonna be a little out of his price range. So, that being said, and I'll use some terminology that's reality and it's more my life, and you people probably won't understand it, but where there is livestock, there is dead stock. Do you believe that? Okay, so just 2 weeks ago, there was a cow that calved and went down. Animal life is no different than people life. Everyone that walks in the front door of the hospital doesn't necessarily come out that same door. We brought the cow out on the grass on the outside where she needed to be because it's best to get them off from cement. So she's a down cow that's outside on the grass that's being cared for, watered and hay and lifted, and she did expire, because that does happen. That's real life. So, I don't know how acceptable this would be for these people coming out this driveway and seeing that.
I have a question for you. Is this proposal at all impacting that farm operation? Is there a safety
It could
concern?
very well.
What I'm interested to know is there something here that would prohibit the way that that farm operates today, or limit how it could operate in the future?
Yes.
What would that be?
That would be neighbors,
Complaining.
yeah.
Neighbors
exactly.
complaining.
Just complaining about
Neighbors
this.
complain all the time.
Pardon me?
Neighbors complain
Okay,
all the
well, this will
time.
be different kind of a complaint. This will be noise, this will be smell. Let me start by telling you how our day will start. At
I understand.
3:30
I grew up on a farm. I
Okay,
know.
there you go. So then you'd be a good candidate for one of these homes. Okay, but a lot of other people wouldn't be. Vacuum pump runs 8 hours a day. Skid steer's running.
So to summarize, you're concerned that if this gets developed and there's neighbors there, they will start to formally complain about the farm operation?
That is correct.
Got it.
That's
Okay,
my
thank
concern.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Concern, I think, is probably lawsuit, correct? Which you
Well,
would have to,
I'm sure it would come to that. I mean,
could come to that.
it could very well come to that, because people can sue over anything. But
Farm operations are pretty well protected in the state of Vermont from those
yeah,
types of
that
things.
doesn't mean that you're not gonna spend some money and some unnecessary hardship and just extra challenges. But
Mr. Gumet, I really appreciate your concerns, and we talked about that briefly when we had our site visit. Unfortunately, what we're limited to are the zoning regulations, so it's, and what we consider is the property itself and whether it fits into the zoning regulations. And I can't predict the future for you in terms of whether a litigious person might buy a home and come knocking at your door or serve you with papers, and I really hope that doesn't happen. I think,
Well, do keep this in mind, this is rural district. I'm not down here trying to move a barn or cattle down here in the village, okay? I think that would create a problem.
But you have guidelines too, you have to work within the state imposes on you as a farmer, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, as long as you're abiding by the law, you should have some amount of protection.
Okay, so then, Jay and I have spoke about the right to farm law language in the deeds. Is that something that can be backed up by this board, the town of Shelburne?
that's a private matter between you and the property owner, because there isn't a provision for that in the bylaws or the zoning regulations, so we have very limited jurisdiction, and I appreciate you coming here, I appreciated you coming out to the site visit.
I
But
wasn't
our,
there. You were too cold to notice.
no, well, maybe I talked to your dad then.
Wait,
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Gee,
Yeah, really?
that'd be brother.
There you go, that's safer.
Younger brother, right?
Let's strike the record on that.
So what I'm telling you is we have way too much at stake to, face challenges.
I appreciate and I'm sensitive to your concerns, and if there were something in the regulations that allowed us to consider it, I know that we all would, because
Yeah.
we do follow our limited jurisdiction. Pipe in.
You can, because it will be, well, you can impose conditions as part of this.
But what condition would
Yeah, it would be a difficult thing to say that it was part of the zoning regulations, but you can impose conditions as you see necessary to.
Yeah, but you start to get, if it starts to contradict the right to farm law and then what's mandated by the state laws, we'd be
Yeah,
on
it's-
some pretty thin ice there.
It's muddy waters, but I guess just his willingness to do it, DRB certainly isn't discouraging that, I would say. But as a private matter, you wouldn't be discouraging that. It's just outside of their scope of.
And anything that gets put in the deeds, we don't have any control over that. If there's deed restrictions or language in the deeds that confirm the right to farm law and put people on notice for that, that's between you and the landowner. That really,
I'm going to, just if I can speak quickly, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to protect your interests. I'm not an attorney, but I've already talked to my attorney. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if any person that I sold the land to, that built the house, or that they sold the house to, or that they sold the house to, ever had any teeth to come after you guys. He too thought it was a little bit difficult for me to protect against that.
Jay, can you just hold the phone for a sec?
I apologize.
There we go.
Because he said anyone can raise a frivolous lawsuit at any time. So I'm a little bit at a loss as to how to properly protect your interests. But I'm a guy coming here. You guys have been there forever. I get it. I'm willing to do anything I possibly can do, even if it means restrictions and the lots are worth less. I'm there. I'm with you. I quite frankly don't know what can be done. Because, I don't know. We couldn't come up with language that exists. I mean, you can't complain about noise from your neighbor. He thought that you can't protect against these things. So I want to do everything I can do that makes sense. And I'm happy to work with anybody. I don't want to put a farmer out. I'm from Vermont as well, and so I don't really know what to say about it.
I'm going to chime in and say that this is not really a conversation that's relevant for this forum. I wish it
So then let's
were.
get back to it, because I do want you people to get engaged. Okay? All right, so we opposed the driveway that was here across the field, almost directly across from the milk house. And I opposed the driveway coming out right across there. I accepted the fact that they were going to come around the backside
I see, yeah.
better.
Yeah.
What's the issue? Why do you oppose it?
It would make a buffer. Yeah, they're going to come down right into a driveway there. We've got traffic coming out of there at all times. When we're moving manure, it's all day long.
So it's a four-way intersection? It's like a...
That's what it will be.
Okay.
I mean, it's not, there's probably not all of us stop though. But
Okay.
it's just not a good idea to have a driveway directly across from there.
Again, because the safety concern is, we're all about safety. And
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I mean, there's traffic coming into there, farm traffic coming into there,
Okay.
in and out of there all the time. I mean, we already have activity on that pond road that we've never seen before. We actually have people that have time to ride bikes up and down that road and walk down that road. So these cars here coming out through, and I almost see that as a safety issue, because cars come through there at a pretty good rate up around this corner, and they go down that way just as fast.
I can just speak for.
Yep, go ahead.
I don't mean to take the microphone. I've already met with the highway district chief or controller, I'm not sure of the terminology. Shelburne, yeah, we walked from one end of the property all the way down and discussed the best location from a safety standpoint for the driveway, and it unfortunately is counter to what you're saying. He felt, and I felt, spending a lot of time there, that probably was the safest spot to put it, as opposed to, I'd rather pull out there than pull out on 116 any time of the day, any day of the week, quite frankly. I've got 2 young kids. I'm concerned about safety. There is large sight lines either way when you're pulling out of there. I get it. There's farm traffic, and it's weird traffic. It's cool traffic. I drive by there all the time. I personally I'll disagree with that point. It'd be more safe if the farm wasn't there, and it'd probably be more safe if the driveway wasn't there at all. But I feel as though that is the safest spot for it to poke out.
So you're intending to cut all this brush out? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Oh, you must be able to hear me, okay. So are you intending to cut all this brush out on both sides where that driveway connects onto the pond road? Because the brush is right there. You'd have to have the nose of the car almost on the road to be able to get a good sight both ways.
So this was a comment from the highway superintendent, is that so first of all, on the east side, there'll be a stormwater pond, so that would be cleared out to build the pond. And then on the north side, on the west side rather, we would cut what's called a visibility triangle, so that you don't have to go all the way up to the very edge of the road to clear it. So there will be some clearing. And I went out and measured site distances here, and it is, from a site distance point of view, it is a good spot, because what it does is it gets away from this corner. As you go this way, there's potential for a blind spot, but it pulls away from enough so that you have good sight distances in both directions.
So explain one more time, what's happening over here to the east? They're putting a pond there?
Yeah, to treat the stormwater runoff from this new driveway.
Yep.
It'd be dry most of the time.
And where's
Just
that gonna drain to?
where's it out into the field?
It's a dry pond.
Correct.
It only fills up when there's a lot of rain.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Greenway.
So to clarify, you're gonna, the dry pond, that'll be cleared back quite a ways from
Right.
the road.
And we'd also cut like
And then you're gonna cut a fairly
something like
good-sized
that.
triangle in there?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a calculation for it.
Yep,
And we would do, frankly, we'd be doing the same here.
right. Because that, that is a pretty, people do come flying around that corner.
It's true, and we did also talk to, we have also been in contact about possibly installing some signs to alert drivers that a driveway is coming, and we will cut those triangles. And I measured these site distances myself, and I thought they were appropriate for the type of development we're talking about. Because again, this is 3 houses. That's a peak hour traffic. That's 3 cars an hour. So it's not a lot.
Yep. Okay.
Any other questions from the board? And anybody else in the, Gail, go ahead, you can take the mic and I'll swear you in.
I'm just here,
Can you state your name, Gail, and raise your right
Gail
hand?
Albert, Natural Resources Committee.
Swear affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in connection with your testimony?
I do.
Sorry.
It's so funny.
No problem. Yeah, that's what.
You did the wrong hand.
You're good.
Sorry.
The other left.
I always am confused about my left and right. You should see me in the yoga class. So I just wanted to reflect some of the comments that were noted by the Natural Resources Committee in our minutes. And we were concerned, hoping that, as it had been last time, the undeveloped area would be conserved and held by a third party. And I noticed in your comments that that's not something that you're considering. We would still like to see it conserved by a third-party organization that would protect it in perpetuity and not have to worry about dogs running through the wooded areas and affecting the wildlife and so forth. And we were also concerned about how recently the wetland delineations had been done.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by the wetland delineations?
On the map? On the map.
How recent?
I could speak to that a little bit. So the wetlands delineations that were done are old. They were done in, I believe, 2004. And again, we thought by pulling sort of out of that and having less wetlands disturbance that was, sort of appropriate. And then there was a specific question about wetlands on Lot 3. And again, there's been no formal wetlands delineation on Lot 3. The mapped wetlands are over 150 feet away from any of our proposed disturbance. The driveway we're proposing is along an existing woods road, and the building site's on top of a ridge. So, in our opinion, there wasn't a new delineation specific to this area. Based on the existing mapping and the site development we're proposing, we didn't believe was necessary. More?
Any other questions? One of the things that we are supposed to discuss is the fact that there shouldn't be any stumps, wood, or roots, or other kind of fill used. I know that you've done borings, and it's mostly clay there, but I suppose we're supposed to put some sort of limitation to keep the owner, when he does do construction, to keep from putting in bad fill. Is that the concern? Did you put that as one of the conditions? Well, this is just preliminary,
Yeah,
so
it's
never
preliminary,
mind.
so I didn't, but
Okay.
just.
All right. that being the case, and no more comments, there being no comments, I would move to finalize the record, close the hearing, and authorize the applicant to prepare a final plan application. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. And we would incorporate the terms set forth in the staff report for moving forward.
I have a concern over some of the comments that were made.
Okay.
I'd like to maybe, I'll just say it right now. I don't like the idea that might force the landowner to find a third party to conserve.
I don't think that's.
We're not going to do that. I noticed, well, I know that that's written up here.
Where?
Conservation project updates. I just want to make sure that that doesn't work its way in.
It's not in now.
Okay, good, and it won't, unless we talk
Does
about
his
it.
final review, it could raise its head again.
Okay, I
And
just want
we
to make
can
sure it doesn't
discuss it
sneak
then.
in unless we talk about it.
I think
Okay.
at this point, right now,
There
everyone's
was sort of a
comfortable.
comment that we'd have to, satisfy the Conservation Commission, and if they're not gonna be satisfied unless we do that, then we should talk about it with the board, I guess.
But you could do that at final,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, and I think the discussion, I thought, what I was gathering is that the Natural Resources Committee, one of their big comments was figuring out what's actually going to be conserved land and what's going to be agricultural. So conserved and agricultural, it's leaving forested area as
Yeah.
opposed to clearing. And so maybe delineating that a
Yeah,
little
we can
bit
clear,
further.
we can clean that up, that's fine.
Address that in the letter.
Yeah. I hope so, but it'll show up much clearer in the plan, for sure.
Just
And
being
it's-
preliminary.
And I was asking about how to make sure that happens, and I think that will probably be, there will be some sort of reference to that and stipulation to that in any permit,
Yep.
probably. So we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming, and I apologize for any misstatement. I'm really good at stepping in it.
The manure she's done.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be a good reason to do another site visit.
Go by there once a week. Get the picture.
Okay, so that brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is the CBC reporting form discussion, which I suppose we have to have on the record. If everyone could pull out that form, if you can locate it. Thank you. Bye, Gail. For us, I think this is a really easy form to fill out because our mission is so specific. We don't create anything really
I'm just going to insert what we put.
last year. And then are there any specific ways to increase diversity on your CBC? And I would say no. I'm really proud of how diverse our
I think
board
we
is.
probably have one of the most
diverse
boards.
boards. So
Yeah, fun, exciting, and great. Yes, Ian.
And then for 3, I wrote my new acronym is OTRA, which in French means other. But OTRA, it should be on the record review of appeals. So that's what was new, right, since we
I don't
last.
know why I wrote that down like I was going to. Okay, yep.
Commission, board, or committee.
Okay.
Can you identify up to 3 primary goals? I wrote no. What improvements? We need at least 2 microphones. I mean, that's
Oh my
really.
gosh, yeah, that's crazy.
And by the way, last year we asked for new tech. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that
this
seems fruition.
this is, I mean, why, these can't be displayed so everyone could see what's going on.
Yeah, you can't see it from the TV.
No, and yeah,
It would be really nice, actually, if we could mic the room somehow. You probably know this as well, Joanna, but in courtrooms, there's mics everywhere, so you don't have to really worry about it.
Do you get
You know.
background noise at all? Is that an issue?
No, because, well, see, the only thing is, I don't ever really listen to the videos. We get transcripts if we need them,
Okay.
so.
I mean, they work, some are better than others that I've been in.
Now, who's responsible for the handheld mics? Is it
That's VCAM.
VCAM?
But I
Can
think,
you make sure we have at least 2, if not 3?
It really depends on what equipment is available going out, but I can put in the requirements.
If you could, please. Thank you. Do we pay for VCAM? Or is it? Okay. Oh, we
no?
don't? Oh.
How does-
It's free to the town.
Oh.
From the state.
Oh, well,
But you, of course, are welcome to buy microphones to support, but.
well, we can ask. I mean, I'm a little miffed that we appealed to the board to get better technology. We had a whole report done. And, never heard back. And
Right.
so it's kind of ironic that we're supposed to report again. Maybe I could just say, see last year's report under 4,
Right.
or I guess it's 5.
Good idea.
6 is inapplicable.
Student program. Yeah. The students are interested. Absolutely.
And I didn't have anything else to add. Mark is writing. I don't know if that's just a note to self.
Yeah, if you guys have marked it up at all and you want to give it to me,
So that's all I have. I just,
okay.
anybody else? Jeff?
Do we have to tighten up our relationship with the planning commission? Or are we good with that?
There's been a lot of conversations, and I had a document that I found that I forgot
You
to
did?
bring with me, yes. There's been a variety of documents. I've passed some back and forth with Dean. I think I copied you on those conversations. I'm pretty sure I did, but it was a few months ago. But yeah, it's something we need to keep on top of, and
We
they've got-
used to have a list going
yeah,
of
there's
things
there's
that
a
we
couple
wanted-
of there's a couple documents out there.
Pre-you.
Did our list get addressed, or did it get just
Well, it's
forgotten?
quite a, I mean, some of
We
it did.
addressed a couple of things.
In the latest round of changes in the zoning bylaws, yeah.
Okay.
They
We addressed,
storage trailers,
Sidewalks, I think.
sidewalks, and there's a variety. The only thing, they tabled the excavation and fill permit one, because that was
Okay.
a little bit problematic.
Oh, sorry. They have said, the chair and Dean has pointed it out too, that they would like an updated list of,
Problem list.
yeah, basically, which
Yeah.
I was going to put on this, and then I thought maybe Desita would be a little bit long to add this to the back of it, but on a lighter agenda, if we want to go through and see if there's any issues
You
or
must have the
cleaning
list
up.
that we had been keeping. We haven't added to it in a year, but.
Checked it, Dean.
Yeah, I'm sure I do,
Checked with
yeah.
Dean. I found some things regarding setbacks that went back a couple years. I think the planning commission discussed it to a certain extent. I mean, they've got a lot on their plate, and I think they kind of took, a handful of them that were
Right.
Doable.
doable without,
Okay.
some of them,
Yes. I
some of
mean,
them, can take considerable discussion.
seems like in the last 6 months, we haven't had any real issues with applications. Where we like, what do we do with this gray zone?
Right.
Yep.
So is that a goal, to
I don't.
keep up a close relationship with the planning commission?
Well-
Nice goal.
It's always
I
a
think
good
it's
goal.
doable. I think we've always tried to do that.
I think the clerk is the one who does that, right?
I was at the planning commission meeting last week to discuss form-based zoning.
You were. All right.
The next,
I was one of
the
about
next phase.
3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite disappointing turnout, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And then, the problem is you run into developments like the one on Webster Road, and when they hit the table and they complies, and when the people come out of the woodwork.
I know that was in the wrong forum, but it's hard for folks to figure out where to raise their issues.
Yeah, it's, hard to get involved with.
So what time do we appear on the 23rd?
Oh, it was like, it's
I'll
fairly
send-
early in the agenda.
Yeah, I think we are, but what I want is, I would like us all to go to the Bearded Frog and have a beer before we head over.
Before.
What?
Said before.
Count me
Yeah.
in, yeah. I'm up for that.
Sure,
And
what time?
I have a beer or a glass of wine before every one of these meetings.
That's why it moves so smoothly.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so around
Show how
6.
awesome we are.
I'll send an email to everybody.
Okay.
Can't talk business, though, if we have a quorum.
That won't be a problem.
No.
No.
Easily done.
So why are we supposed to go to the select board meeting? Sorry.
You don't have to go.
You don't have to.
We're just gonna go en masse to
Yeah.
show how united we are.
Yes.
Every
actually nice to go in
committee,
once in a
board, or
while.
commission does a presentation to the
clock.
select board.
Yeah.
Right. To the select board every year. I think the
Yeah.
planning commission was last meeting. You know, it goes to cemetery commission, natural resources, planning. Everybody.
Multimedia stuff.
Is this just the presentation or is this sort of the budget? Sort
Just
of
the
summary and
presentation.
okay.
So the woman
think
who
I
was
went to
with
the
Gail
budget
is the
one.
newest member of the Natural Resources Committee, my neighbor, her name
Right,
is
I know, that's what I
Peggy May.
figured.
Very nice lady.
Yeah.
She's an attorney, right? She a patent?
Retired.
Claudia Safara's driving our
retired
AV system.
patent attorney, yeah. They bought Dick Snelling's house, which they are tearing down.
Oh, yeah, I heard that was coming down.
Are we ready to adjourn?
That's a good idea. I'll make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so we'll see you guys Tuesday night.
We off?
Bearded Frog.
All right, we're off. Tuesday night.
What time?